Rasengan.
Boruto's fate, one that will never change, or in other words, could it be that, in the end, Konoha will finally accept Boruto? Yeah, I'm Nim without the E, and for at least the next 8 minutes, let's talk a bit about Boruto's fate and Konoha's. Oh yeah, this isn't a heavy topic, especially considering how complicated and messy Boruto's destiny already is. This is more of a light discussion about Konoha and Boruto themselves. First of all, and most importantly, Chapter 27 shows us that Konohamaru is starting to open his mind a little about Boruto. And to me, that's the first real step that could have a huge impact going forward. I mean, we all know that the reality and memories of everyone have been altered. Boruto is now believed to be the killer of the 7th Hokage, Uzumaki Naruto. But we also know that anyone who tries to doubt or question their own memories about that fact will automatically, little by little, have their mind revert back to the altered reality where Boruto is the killer. And that's exactly what makes Boruto completely unable to defend himself, even if he's not truly the person everyone thinks he is, or the criminal everyone believes him to be. But somehow, as the story goes on, there's this small gap that turns some of those doubts into a kind of belief for Boruto himself. And that belief even lasts up to chapter 27. Yeah, you guys know what I mean, right? As a simple example, in chapter 13, Koji, as a user of 10 Direction Shinjutsu, tries to confirm whether Boruto is really Naruto's son or not. Moreover, Koji also confirms that every time he wants to believe that Boruto is Naruto's son, his memory, beyond his control, forces him to believe that it is a mistake. But as I said before, as the story progresses, I think reality is not something that is absolutely true. In other words, there are two assumptions that I think need to be considered. First, will everyone who thinks Boruto is a murderer and that he is not the son of Uzumaki Naruto consider that to be a problem for themselves? I mean, we know everyone has their priorities, right? That is, what's the problem if Boruto is a murderer? And what's the problem for him? Who cares? And does the fact that Boruto has become a murderer mean that the people concerned will have a problem or something? Yeah, honestly, this is a silly statement, but that's not what I really mean. I know that this is less relevant if we compare it to real life, but try to consider Koji, or even Inojin. Whether they side with Boruto or not, Koji has no problem with Konoha itself, right? As for Inojin, he will definitely get into big trouble if he is identified as being affiliated with Boruto. But Inojin has a priority, which is Himawari. This means that at this point, the reality of everyone's memories of Boruto is not that important. If they have their own priorities, then it certainly won't be a problem if they have to side with Boruto. Second, have some of the ninjas in Konoha who are currently on their path completely ignored the reality in their memories? I mean, people like Shikamaru, Mitsuki, or Konohamaru. They have decided that Boruto is someone who must be killed because he has betrayed the village. However, as time goes by, they begin to realize that Boruto is not what they thought he was. The question is, when they start to believe in Boruto, will that belief last long and not return to the reality that has been changed by omnipotence? And if that is the case, then a loophole in omnipotence has truly been found. To get everyone on Boruto's side is to believe. But this is not just a simple matter of believing. Rather, it is believing in what Boruto has done as proof and also following their thoughts, just as Mitsuki, Konohamaru, and Shikamaru have done. In the battle between Mitsuki and Boruto, Mitsuki realized that Boruto had no bad intentions whatsoever, let alone to kill him. Even during the battle between Boruto and Mitsuki, Boruto did not hurt Mitsuki in the slightest. Boruto's purpose in attacking Mitsuki was not just a normal fight. Rather, Boruto wanted to show that someone who is considered the son would never do anything bad to him. Because once again, if you think about it, the fight was actually just a scenario for Boruto to show his dominance and level of power, which is so far above Mitsuki's, and also as proof that he is indeed the son. It wasn't like talk no jutsu, but at least Boruto managed to use that method to gain Mitsuki's trust. And until now, as well as the scenario of letting Boruto escape, it seems that it is enough to prove that Mitsuki is truly on Boruto's side. As for Shikamaru, I think what made him go from denial and stubbornness to being more rational and thoughtful was when he started to follow his thoughts as Kashin Koji told him to. Of course, it wasn't an easy path, but Boruto had to go through various ways to make Shikamaru consider everything Boruto said. From that moment on, Shikamaru began to open up to Boruto. When Boruto told him everything that had happened so far, Shikamaru finally began to understand. But it was useless. Even though Boruto had told him about Zeno's power, the information about that power would be lost from Shikamaru's memory. That meant his memory would be reset and show that Boruto was a traitor. But to break out of that cycle, the key was in his own mind, belief. This means that despite the fact that omnipotence actually has a slight loophole for some ninjas who side with Boruto, it seems impossible for Ida to activate Zeno's power a second time to make everything return to normal as before. But do you think this is impossible? Honestly, it could be yes or no. Because if you remember the Omnipotence arc, the fact is that the power was activated based on Kawaki's desire through Ida. And we know that Ida likes Kawaki. Now, in this case, let's say Ida gradually starts to like Boruto too. Regardless of the love story that will become a love triangle between Sumire, Sarada, and even Ida, is it possible that in the end, if Ida likes Boruto too, she will activate the Omnipotence power a second time if Boruto has a deep desire to be accepted back? Yeah, maybe this can actually be said to be ridiculous and also not. This means that sometimes things that don't make sense can happen. Even something that is said to be fate, such as Boruto done for no doubt, the fact is that it didn't really happen. In other words, the scenario will not be as simple as we think. And finally, as a conclusion, if the fact is that Ada will not activate Omnipotence a second time, then one of the paths Boruto must choose is proof. And again, this is based on chapter 27. By saving someone's life, like Konohamaru's for example, it already created a significant impact that made him side with Boruto. And let's not forget that Boruto always tries to guide his friends toward the ideal path for the future. Because in truth, as the singularity of fate, Boruto has the advantage of saving his friends from the worst possible outcomes ahead. And lastly, I think it's about believing in and following their own way of thinking. Just like Kashin Koji once said, by trusting themselves and following their hearts, it will naturally lead them toward the right path. But even with all these facts, will Boruto still be rejected by Konoha itself? Or, in the end, will he return to the village just like before? In this case, it's hard to prove, especially since in Boruto Next Generations, we saw the destruction of Konoha as a result of Boruto and Kawaki's battle. I mean, is that an absolute future timeline, or could there be an alternate ending beyond that? But if things really do end the way we've seen, then there's no place for Boruto Uzumaki in Konoha anymore. At least, not if the existence of the shinobi world and Konoha itself has truly come to an end. But whatever your opinion is, let me know in the comments. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Databayo.